Hello everyone, welcome back to Grow Roots. This is Shannon and welcome to my August 2024 container garden tour. I used to just do front yard and backyard garden tours every month and include my containers in those garden tours, but a few months ago I decided to make these separate for a number of reasons, and you all seem to like that idea. So that's what we're going to do. We are starting off today in my backyard. We will move to the front yard after we're done with the backyard, but I wanted to show these two because this is where I have a majority of my containers out here on my patio. So I'm actually going to skip all of these for now, and I want to start off with my Hosta container garden. This is one of those problematic areas of my backyard where, if you can see, the grass will not grow over there. It is shaded almost 100% of the day. It gets a little bit of morning sun, although it's cloudy this morning. A little bit of morning sun and a little bit of dappled afternoon sun. The sun will like creep through those trees, and then it gets dappled hot afternoon sun. That's why I had no idea if hostas would work here, what would work here. So this is my first attempt at really even growing anything, and that's why they're in containers, because I didn't want to put in the effort of creating a garden bed here if I didn't know what would work here. So I thought I would try everything out in containers first. And last year I just got so incredibly lucky, because this year I'm not finding the same deal. I found hostas on clearance at Callaway's. I actually checked, it was like August 10th or 11th is when I found them at Callaway's, because this time last year was a record heat summer. And so the hostas were in, like, I don't know, it was more than a gallon container. They were huge hostas on sale for $1. And some of them are proven winners, and some of them are a different brand called Blue Label. But I picked them up for $1, so I spent $4 on these beautiful hostas. And then I found these containers at Sam's Club, also around this time of year, for just a little over $10 each. And they are ginormous containers. So I'm so happy to have this little container garden here. And the first hosta, I mean, all of them are doing incredibly well here. So I'm so thrilled with that. But this one is a proven winners, Shadowland Diamond Lake, and it's doing really well. You can see that, so my roof hangs over this, and so like it gets a little bit of the runoff from the roof and things like that. And I do apologize for this. I have my terracotta storage over here as well. It's just run out of storage. And so this is also where I'm storing my terracotta pots for now until I get more storage. But anyway, proven winners, Shadowland Diamond Lake. It's doing fantastic. This is the one, if I'm going to say any of my hostas are struggling, this is the one I'm going to say, but still, it's amazing. The only reason I say that is because this leaf has gotten a little bit crispy, and the edge of this leaf has gotten a little bit crispy. And then I've had grasshoppers, I think. I know y'all will say it's snails, but I've treated for snails a couple times, and I think it's grasshoppers. That's the one thing I have struggled with this summer. They are eating the edges a little bit, but I mean, overall, it's absolutely beautiful, and love it. So this one is a proven winners, Shadowland Woo La La. So this is going to get huge. I forget what the stats are, but it is one of the larger hostas that Proven Winners offers, and it's absolutely beautiful with the it is just absolutely beautiful, like with green and the yellow edges. Just really, really, really pretty hosta. And then over here is a very similar looking hosta, and it is not Proven Winners, it is Blue Label, and it is their Elabroic hosta. And so it actually looks pretty similar, but I think it has like a denser habit, and it's more compact. It's not supposed to get as big as the Ooh La La, but you can see, again, yeah, I've got things eating it. There's probably a spider that's enjoying that leaf right there. No big deal. But it's just beautiful. And then this one is probably my biggest one and the one that is being eaten the most. But oh my word, look at these beautiful leaves. Yeah, it's just absolutely beautiful. It is the Blue Label Elegans Blue Hosta, and I love the color blue in my garden, especially with hostas, and it's doing very well. So potentially next year I may turn this from a container garden into an actual garden. We shall see. We have to do some work with the irrigation, and you know, that's a really big project. I don't know that it's going to be done, but I do love it right now as a container garden with hostas. Just absolutely beautiful. So moving along, I just wanted to give you an update on Gummy, my puppy. It no longer looks like a puppy, right? She's 5 months old now and just absolutely huge. She's almost 50 pounds. She will probably be 100 plus pounds when she gets done growing. And there they are playing my other dog, Bear. Okay, just letting you know they're out here with me. But moving along to the containers on my backyard patio, starting off with this one, I have 2 matching containers, one on each side, the other one is over there. And this year I put a annual type of lantana and also a pink verbena. So the verbena is planted all along the sides. Oh, I also have, well, I had 3 vinca plants in every one of these. I have 2 vinca that have survived. I think all of the rest have died, even in the other container. Oh, there is a vinca in there. It's just not doing very well. Anyway, so these containers are doing okay. I have found a number of problems with them. I've sprayed them several times because I'm getting this happening. And let me find another leaf. Like, this type of, like the leaves right here will turn white, and I'm not sure exactly what's causing that, but I have sprayed it a couple times with neem oil, following up again like 5 to 7 days later. And I think I've also tried, what did I try? A different one, and they do okay after that, but I don't know, like the leaves are curling with the lantana, and I think that's the heat. But my lantana last year was pink bandana lantana, and it just loved the heat. It did better in the heat. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on. They're definitely irrigated just fine, but not performing as I would expect. They're still doing okay. And then I'm finally getting some blooms on my verbena. One thing I'm not super crazy about with verbena is that like they look like this after they're done blooming, and unless you go and deadhead all of them, that's what they look like. Now they will grow new blooms regardless. I think that they bloom better if you deadhead. They will bloom over that. I've got some new blooms going there. But I'm not like a huge fan of this look, if you know what I mean. And when the whole plant looks like that after it's done blooming, it's just not great. So, but it is a nice container. I do love it. I want that lantana to perform a little bit better. I have a blue agave here, and it's doing pretty well. I have been doing supplemental watering out here, and I think this guy is getting some of that, and it's not liking it, which is why you see that yellow there. It obviously is a desert type plant. It is not hooked up to irrigation, so it doesn't like too much water. Let me just feel in here. It's pretty dry. It also might need to be repotted. This was a baby pup. Yeah, it probably does need to be repotted. I can see how it's got a little pool of water underneath it from everything being watered this morning. So it's catching some water from somewhere, and it's not loving life because of that, I think. And I probably could repot this, but it is beautiful. It's the only thing, like if I reach into the garden over here, I get poked. This guy has poked me multiple times, but they are so pretty. So this guy is my herb garden this year. You can see it is taking off. The herbs love the heat. It's so interesting. So let me start with this, the one that's blooming. This is actually apple mint, and it's planted right there, right down there, and it has such an interesting growth habit. I expect mint to be more like a ground cover type of thing and like spilling over, whereas this apple mint grows up and it also blooms. It's kind of coming out of bloom a little bit, but I will say the bees absolutely love the apple mint. There's all kinds of different types of pollinators on this plant all throughout the day. I've loved how this apple mint goes, and it is so awesome in a tea, or it's just a very nice fruity kind of mild mint, and I love it. I have another type of mint right there, and it is peppermint, and it is cascading and doing its thing. The peppermint is planted here, one peppermint, but I have it coming up everywhere. So it's coming up here. What originally was planted here is a strawberry. What is that? An eversweet strawberry is growing here, but growing all around it is the peppermint. And so the peppermint is very aggressive. Y'all do not plant these in the ground. They will be crazy invasive. You'll be getting rid of them for years. But I do love the peppermint, and it smells amazing. I mean, this would be great in hot cocoa if I can save some of it and freeze it maybe for the winter time. And yeah, I also think this will be perennial along with the apple mint, I'm pretty sure. So that'll be fun. I had some dill and fennel planted. I don't really even know which is which, but they are doing okay. This is way too small of a hole for dill or fennel, and they don't like that. So those are planted there. I had some caterpillars from the swallowtails on these earlier this year, and they have recovered now. This is lemon thyme. Wow, I love this plant, and I want to create a spot in the landscape for it because I think it will survive our winters. It's so great, like with chicken, y'all. Oh my goodness, it tastes so good cooked with chicken. But and it smells so good, and I love the variegated leaves. I just love it. So I think I'm gonna try and find a spot for the landscape for that, as well as oregano. This is oregano, and I have cut on this. Again, I use it for a lot of things cooking. And it has just done so well. And over here I have a tricolor thyme, and it's not doing well. I'm not sure that it will survive. This wasn't the right spot for it. It doesn't like to be so cramped in there. Probably would love it in the landscape so much more. And if it survives, I'm going to plant it somewhere in the landscape or in another container where it has a lot more room. But if it doesn't survive, I'm going to find it again next year, hopefully, and then find a spot that I can plant it, because I just love the look of that plant. And it also is, it's really nice cooked with a variety of different meats and things like that. So that is my herb garden. Coming over here, this is one of my favorite containers ever, and it is my desert rose. Now, it currently is not in bloom, and it was just covered in blooms almost all summer long, and now it's like, okay, this is the heat of the summer. It kind of shed its blooms and is now focusing on seed pod production. So this has grown so fast. I discovered this seed pod probably 2 weeks ago, and it was tiny. The seed pod was like this big, and now it is that big in 2 weeks. So it takes a little while for these things to grow, and then when it looks like it's getting close and drying out, I will either wrap it in a sock or wrap it in wire, because it will pop open and all of the little seeds will disperse everywhere immediately, because they have these little, I forget what they're called, they're little wispy things that help it to fly everywhere. I don't want that to happen. I want to save the seeds, because I have successfully grown other desert rose plants from these seed pods. So this is its third summer with me. Maybe it's fourth summer with me, and I've gotten seed pods from it every summer except the very first summer when it was an itty bitty plant. So for 2 years I've collected seed pods on it. This is its 3rd year with seed pods. So yeah, this is its 4th summer with me, and I just absolutely love this plant. I'll show you guys a glimpse of that Codex. This was a cutting, and I mistakenly bought it from Lowe's. It was labeled as a diplodenia for $6 plus. And it turned out to be a desert rose plant, and I'm so glad because it's just become one of my favorite plants. I do have to bring this in over the winter time because it will, anything under 40 degrees is questionable for this plant. So I bring it in my house, I put it under a grow light in my hallway, and it does pretty well. It kind of goes dormant. I can see it still tries to even push out blooms on me in the winter under the grow light, but it's not enough light for the blooms to really, and not enough heat, I'm sure, because my house is 68 in the winter time. So it's just not enough heat, not enough light to actually bloom, but it does sustain itself, and it sustains the leaves. The first summer it completely shed all of its leaves, or the first winter I overwintered it shed all of its leaves in shock. But now I kind of know where to put it, where it does okay under a grow light, and it keeps its leaves, and put it back out. And it loves the heat, it loves the humidity, it loves drought conditions. Like, I think this plant is so tough, and I just absolutely love it. So there's the desert rose. I have a rosemary growing in a container here, and again, love to use this for recipes as well. And this is another one. This is not hooked up to irrigation. It does get supplemental watering when I'm out here supplemental watering, and I think it might get a little bit of the sprinkler that's over here in my garden because it is kind of wet right now. It doesn't like a whole lot of water. It is really drought tolerant, and I love the rosemary. This is its, 3rd summer with me. Moving on to this pot, which is kind of an accidental pot. I just have wild purslane growing in this pot. As I see wild purslane coming up in the cracks of my patio and in my garden, I pick it up and I put it in here. This is accidental because the soil that's in here, y'all, is ground soil. It's clay, it's maybe a little bit of mulch and compost, but mostly clay. And I planted my clematis right there, which is blooming. A little bit of, that's a sapphire indigo clematis. When I planted that, I needed to take up the dirt because I filled the hole with compost and a little bit of the native soil, but the rest of the soil was in this pot. I just threw it in there because it was empty and sitting there. And then, I found the purslane, and I was like, well, instead of killing it, let's just plant it all here. It's not going in my garden and in my cracks on the patio. Let's just let it grow. And it has, and it doesn't get watered, and it has yellow blooms when it's blooming. It's not currently blooming right now, but it'll just grow everywhere. It's pretty awesome. I actually should have bought some purslane and actually planted some purslane from the nurseries because it really is such a rock star in our Texas heat. So moving on to my strawberry planter. Wow, there's what? I don't know, 6 strawberry plants, maybe 8 strawberry plants planted in here. And then there's a balloon flower that's planted in here as well, just because it was empty in the center and I needed a spot to plant that. And I'll plant it out in the landscape once it's a little more mature. But there's balloon flower and strawberries, and all of my strawberries are now sending out runners. So what I've decided to do is I've filled all of these pots up with some garden soil. I've just put the ends of these guys. So let me see if I can find, there's some that, okay, here we go. This is one of the runners that doesn't have a pot. And so as you can see, these little guys right here grow roots, especially if they're planted in soil. So I've just popped these in their little things, and I haven't clipped them off from the original plant yet because I don't want them to struggle. I want them to root themselves while they're still attached to the main plant. Once they're fairly well rooted, then I will cut them off from the main plant because they can feed themselves with their their established roots. But I'll have lots of these to give away. If I lose any of the strawberry plants in the strawberry planter, I could pop it in there. But there's lots of uses. Lots of people will always want little strawberry plants, and I will have them ready for next spring. They will overwinter just fine as well, or they should. Some of the babies may not survive the winter. Depends on how well they can grow their roots throughout this fall while the weather is still really nice, because we still have the rest of summer and all of fall. So actually they should be just fine. They'll overwinter perfectly, and I can give these away in the spring. So that's super fun. So here is one of my hardy hibiscus. This is a summer carnival hibiscus, and this was just so striking. I couldn't resist this. I bought it last October as a birthday present to myself because I love the foliage. Let me find. So the foliage is this like cream color with light green and a pink color. And the stems also are kind of pink, if you can see. It's so stunning just for the foliage alone. And it has struggled a little bit. I don't want to go into all of what I've been through with this plant, but let's just say I'm glad that it's alive. And I've gotten 2 flowers from it. Here's one of the spent ones that I'm just allowing to hopefully maybe grow a seed pod for me. Oh, it just fell, so that's not happening. Oh well. That light little touch just made it fall, but you know, I just love it for the foliage alone, and even if it doesn't give me a whole lot of flowers, it's okay by me. I think that plants with variegated leaves, flowering plants with variegated leaves, I am learning they have a hard time flowering. And I think it's because, I mean, when you think about it, the plant survives by photosynthesis. And the photosynthesis occurs with the green of the leaves. Those cells are the ones that are performing photosynthesis. My understanding is the white leaves, or the white parts of the leaf, those cells do not produce or have photosynthesis production going on. And so there's not as much sugar production, there's not as much plant food. I supplemental water this guy like crazy, but I also fertilize this guy like crazy for that reason. And I did get 2 flowers from it, but it's just, number one, this is only its first season with me. Number 2, you know, it probably just needs all of the help it can get, because it's not all of the leaves are doing photosynthesis. So it does have this one area that doesn't have variegated leaves, which is interesting, and that is the one that actually gave me one of my flowers. And it probably, I'll bet you it will flower again for me, I'll bet. But anyway, nonetheless, summer carnival hibiscus, I absolutely do love it. And I have Sweet William growing from seed in here, and this is what I tell you with the grasshoppers. The grasshoppers are relentless. I don't know that I'm going to have any Sweet William seedlings. I had them all around under here, and this is a really hardy seedling, y'all, but it can't survive if the grasshoppers are eating all of the leaves. So I'm kind of frustrated with that. But I do have this one plant that seems to be surviving so far. Hopefully it will survive this season so I can have Sweet William flowers next year. I also have them in my landscape, and I have tons and tons and tons of seeds from the flowers I got this year. I'm hoping that they dropped seed, because there's millions of those seeds, I'm telling you. I'm hoping that the dropped seeds are going to produce Sweet William seedlings, so that I can have Sweet William flowers next year, but who knows? We'll see. Moving on to this container, this is all about the vinca and the zinnias. So these are yellow double flowering. I think these are giant yellow or double flowering yellow that I got from Fairy Morse, $1.98 at Walmart. And the one thing I love about this type of zinnia is this guy does not need to be staked. It's not floppy. It is super strong. They're still 3 feet tall, maybe, actually, this guy's probably 4 feet tall. It's in a container, so I'm taking that into consideration, but I'm 5 feet tall and it's as tall as I am. So, you know, a foot for the container and 4 feet of growth, and there you go. But this guy is so strong, like you can't knock it over. And that's the strongest zinnia I've ever grown. My California giant zinnias have flopped. I have cactus mixed zinnias over there that are really tall, that are super floppy. Every zinnia I've had can be really floppy, but this guy is not. So that's really fun. Down here is another container. This was free. And this is a crepe myrtle seedling that is 1 year old at this point. It popped up in my garden from my neighbor's crepe myrtle, I think, except the fact that it's producing purple blooms and my neighbor's crepe myrtle is white. The nearest crepe myrtle that is purple is 4 or 5 houses down from me. And a seedling popped up last year. I popped it in a pot to see if I could, you know, help it along and keep it, and I have. I see that I think it's getting a little bit of spider mites again. I might need to spray it. It does have a little bit of issue with aphids and spider mites, and I sprayed it with neem oil and got rid of that problem for the most part, but I see that I'm getting that problem again. So I'm gonna go in and spray that with some more neem oil, which should take care of it. But really, really pretty plant. Love that plant in a container. And then here is the matching container to the one that you saw over there. It's lantana and pink verbena. I'm not going to talk too much about that. If you're wondering what these things are, I'm just now acknowledging them. I did get some things sent to me from Temu as part of a video that they wanted me to do on, you know, their garden products and things like that. If you would like an update, I got these as a package of 6. They are solar lights. Only 5 out of 6 are working now. But they are really, really pretty. And the only thing I don't love about them is I would love these lights to be a little more floppy than they are. There's a couple of them, like that container, where they're just all kind of sticking up together, and I don't love that. But 5 out of 6 are still working a month later, just so that y'all know. Yeah, so moving on over here, these are containers. This is kind of my full sun containers that need some attention every day or just to make sure that they're doing okay. These are my little seedling guys. So, and guys that I'm kind of helping along, nursing along. So number 1, that is a desert rose seedling that it's 1 year plus old now, 1 year and a few months old. So it's getting full sun and making sure that it has, you know, its watering needs met and all of the needs met, and it's doing really well. It's starting to get kind of bulbous right there, which is pretty cool. And then I have these 2 desert rose seedlings that are from this year, so they're only a few months old, but still like going strong. Again, I'll have to take these in the wintertime to make sure that they survive, but they're doing good. This is a Biden that I got for free that I'm trying to grow along, but it is not going, and the other one is dead. So these 2 are Bidens. I'm just going to stop watering them and let them die, to be honest. These 2 are cuttings from my Mr. Goodbud sedum that the cuttings rooted, but in this last week of 100 plus temperatures, they pretty much kind of died. So I'm not sure that that's going to survive. I'm not sure that that one's going to survive. I think the best time to do that is honestly in the fall. I can't expect like brand new little tiny rooted cuttings to survive full sun, 100 degree plus heat. I realize that that's it's not reasonable. But nonetheless, I'll take some more cuttings and I'll try to root them again. But if these guys survive, I will be happy. If not, it's totally okay. Sedum roots itself super easily, and that shouldn't be a problem to create more of these in the fall. And then those are 2 coreopsis babies that like 2 branches broke off of my coreopsis. My branches break really easy right at the base. And so I thought, I wonder if those will grow roots if I stuck them in soil. And so the answer to that question is yes, they do. They do that pretty easily, actually. And so I just stuck you know, the bases of the branch down into the soil, that branch died off, just FYI. Like I cut it off right here and right here. So the branch will die off, but it will grow roots and then it will grow new growth. And this is all the new growth. So these are 2 baby coreopsis plants. I have them here to make sure that they get the water that they need, to make sure that they do all right, and then I can plant them elsewhere in my garden or give them away, whatever I choose to do. And over here, I love this, I guess you could call it a container, but it's 6 different containers, honestly. It's a little Ferris wheel. I got this at Callaway's. I painted it myself, and it has these little tiny little baskets that move around that can hold containers. And the problem with that is that here in Texas, I've tried like flowers in there. That does not work. They dry out super quickly. They need to be watered like, I don't know, 5 times a day if you want them to survive, because the containers are so little. So last year I tried succulents here because they don't need to be watered as much. And then the succulents did okay, and then they died in the wintertime because they're not winter hardy. And so this year I picked up hens and chicks, which are winter hardy here, and I'm trying to see if I could get them to survive. They are struggling a bit, you can see. Like, I'm just not great with succulents, y'all. I guess that is too dry. Do they need to be watered? It is pretty dry. Maybe that is what's going on. Is it? Yeah, it's dry all throughout. So I need to water these guys. Like I said, this last week has been pretty dang hot and we're not cooling off. And so, you know, everything's kind of showing that. But I need to give these guys maybe a little more water, but they're surviving so far. And I love that. And they should survive through the winter if I can get them through the summer. Okay, so I'm going to move on to these containers here. And oh, I just love this area. I have, this is part of this little like garden down there, but this trellis has a tangerine beauty crossvine on it. And so anything I grow in front of here, I just think it just, I don't know, it sets the beauty of the flowers off for sure. So what I have right here is a limelight hydrangea. This was grown from a cutting last year. So this is only 1 year old. And look how big this is already. This is more like, this area gets maybe 5 hours of sunlight a day. And so it's almost full sun, but almost not. And I think it's just perfect. I've found that this is where my limelight hydrangeas do the best, to be honest. This is kind of my experiment anyway. And I have found them to do really, really good in this location, no matter what limelight hydrangea is here. But anyway, this guy is doing really, really well, even in the heat of the summer. You could see the blooms are starting to turn brown. That's what happens in 100-degree plus heat with limelights, and that's okay. The rest of the plant is doing pretty well. Am I getting any newer blooms? This is almost a newer bloom, but no, it's not giving me any brand new blooms right now, but that's okay. It's doing well. And there's some leaf browning that's going to happen in 100-degree weather as well. You have to expect that with limelight hydrangeas. And then this rectangular planter is where I have my limelight cuttings every year. So this year though, I only had my big limelight hydrangea died. The one that I took cuttings from, that I grew this from, the big one died because last summer was brutal heat. And so I had a little lime hydrangea that I put in its place that I had gotten on clearance, and the cuttings from the little lime is what I placed into this planter here. Only one of them took, and it's this one right here. So this is a little lime that is growing from a single cutting that I took in late winter. It is rooting, and I'm letting it root in this planter all season long. And then maybe in the fall, but I think more like early spring, I'm going to take that out and plant it somewhere or give it away. It will be a rooted, established plant at that point. The rest of these cuttings did not take, and that's okay. I think this one tried to take, but it died. I'm gonna actually, no, I'm not gonna pull it. It feels like it's rooted, but it's not growing anything. But yeah, you can, oh, see, this guy tried to root. See that? It grew roots, but it did not like, I wonder if I should plant that back. Those roots actually look good. It's just not growing anything. I'm gonna put it back, y'all. Maybe that'll do something for me next spring. What do you think? I don't know. I put that back though. Okay. Sorry about the out of focus on my camera, but anyway, the other plant that's growing here, I have zinnias. These are what? Purple giant zinnias from Ferns, I think that's what they're called. I'm not super happy with them. They're super tall. They're okay. It's just the flower heads I would expect to be bigger from a giant zinnia. But they're doing okay. And then I also have Chinese forget-me-nots that are growing here. This guy already bloomed and it's giving me more blooms. And then this guy is just now blooming. These were planted in the springtime and they're just now blooming. It's very interesting. But I have more seedlings of those coming up here. I had bachelor's button seeds planted here too, and they did not grow. I can't grow bachelor's buttons. I don't know why. We'll see. Okay, so coming over here, this guy is another one of the purple giant zinnias. And then down here, this is Super Bina Peachy Keen. There's two of them. How are they doing? Do I need to water them? Yeah, they need a little bit of water right now. But they came from one of my 3-tier planter in the front that you'll see in just a few minutes. They completely died off, and then with one day of not getting water and they died. I had an irrigation problem, and then once that was fixed, it started coming back. But I didn't want this in my 3-tier planter anymore. I put some other annuals in its place. But the reason I stuck them in pots, I took them out, I stuck them in pots, and I'm continuing to watch them in this part shade location, like underneath the zinnias. They're kind of shaded here. But the reason I'm doing that is because they're supposed to be perennial here in zone 8A, zone 8B. So I'm going to see if I can get these guys to survive and then plant them in the landscape next year and see what happens. I'll probably protect them in the winter time, because they are marginal, and when you put things in containers anyway, like, it's colder. It's one or two zones colder when they're in the container. So I will protect these guys, or maybe plant them in the landscape in the fall. But that's what I've got going on there. And then a couple more containers to show you in the backyard, and then we will move to the front. Here I have foxtail ferns, and I think there's like 4 different little tiny foxtail ferns that I had them last year. I overwintered them. I learned my lesson. I'm not overwintering these guys ever again because they are so messy. All of these little tiny things shed like pine needles, and they get everywhere in your house. So I won't be overwintering those guys anymore. They're marginal here to survive. They probably won't survive the winter. That's okay. They're one of the more expensive ferns, and I love them so much. It's just not worth overwintering it though. So I love the way they look in this container. They look absolutely beautiful. And I also have a star jasmine planted there that's kind of winding up the pillar. And then another thing that I popped in here is a sweet potato vine, and it's doing pretty well. This is another one that I overwintered from last year. I probably will get cuttings of this pretty soon, root them and overwinter them, because I want these in my garden every year. They're so pretty. But that's doing good. It's even growing up like right there. And I have some pinto mix coleus that's growing right here. It needs a little bit of water. It's not hooked up to irrigation, but these are guys that I overwintered from last year as well. I grew them last year from seed, and then I overwintered some cuttings and then planted them back out, and here we go. There they are. Over here I have a container of monstera. They love it out here. They're really quite hardy. Like, I'm not watering these a whole lot, like once a day, if that, and they are just exploding. I'm not going to have room for this in my home over the winter. They like a lot of light, and I do not have a place in my home with light that is that big. So I think I'm going to take top cuttings and then give the plants away. Like if I grow it from top cuttings, then they're not so big, and I still get to keep the mature plant and regrow it next year. So that's probably what I'm going to do. And then right here, I have some hydrangeas, again, propagated from I have a hedge of 6 endless summer hydrangeas in my side yard. And when they were kind of immature, I stuck the stems in the soil or on a few of them, and I got some of them to root. I let them grow all last season long. I separated them this past spring, put them in these, and I'm kind of just keeping them here to baby them to make sure that they survive. And they are, and they're doing well. Yeah, they're doing pretty good. I love the new growth is doing really, really good. They struggled with sclerosis at the beginning of the season because the mother plants were struggling with sclerosis, but I've since corrected that, I think, and the new growth is doing awesome. So let me switch gears here, and we're going to go to the containers in the front yard. Okay, so moving on to the front yard, I did cover this in my front garden tour, but it is still in a container, and so it's in the garden, it's in a container. How do I do that? I do not know. Anyway, it is my Limelight Standard that I have grown that I just absolutely love. I have moved its location. It is too big. It used to be right here, and now it's covering our entire walkway, so it needed to be moved. This is where it's going to be for now. I don't know what the future holds for it, but obviously I'm going to keep it no matter what because I love it, love it, love it. But I'm also trying it out in this absolute full sun location where it came from kind of a part shade location. And you can see this is the oldest bloom. It is almost completely brown. We're going to keep it. I like it. We're getting into fall, and it's kind of this very cool like fall look. So it's fine. Some of the newer blooms are doing just fine though, like a little bit of burnage with the 100-degree heat. That's a new bloom right there as well. But it is full of blooms, absolutely beautiful. It has Supertunia lovey-dovey underneath it, and they actually have survived. And it's because the Limelight Hydrangea kind of shades it. When I moved it, I actually put some lemon ball sedum cuttings in there. These are just cuttings from a lemon ball sedum that I have there, and they are doing pretty well. I would love for them to grow like on the entire bottom of that. That would be really, really nice. And then I have my Supertunia bubblegum container that's actually doing pretty well. If you even just watch the August front garden tour, I talked about this because how can you not? Like, it's right next to the garden and it's this huge pop of pink. I had to talk about it, but it was, you know, turning brown in the center here, and you can still see where there's the brown of it, but I've got all of this brand new green that's coming up. And there's one thing that I did that I've never done before, and I think that's what's happening and helping this plant along, and it is I put banana peels, 2 banana peels, 1 gallon of water, let it sit for 24 hours is what I did, and then I watered the plant with it. And it seemed like even just that evening I started seeing green, like this whole plant started greening up for me. It was a lighter color green, now it's a deeper color green. This has really helped the Supertunia to come along more than, I mean, I've given this guy Super Thrive and Miracle Grow Bloom is what I have fertilized with for the rest of the before I started using the banana peel water, but the banana peel water has done more for it than anything else that I've used. So I hope you're watching. That might be a tip for the Supertunias to keep them growing in this Texas heat. I think it's banana water. I'm going to keep trying it, but so far it's working well. Here is my 3-tier planter. That is another container. And again, I covered this in the front garden tour. I'm not going to cover this like super well, but on the bottom is Super Bina, Peachy Keen. That's kind of just trying to limp along these hot days. You do see some pink flowers, but those are my pink vinca from here that are like shedding flowers and stuff. I have pink vinca. Long story, but they're doing okay, but I'm starting to notice even these guys are yellowing. Whatever I put in this 3-tier planter struggles in the 100-degree, like, humid Texas heat. Even the vinca now. So I'm going to try that potassium water on these vincas and see if that can green up those leaves, because it's flowering really well. It's just those leaves are starting to turn yellow, which tells me they need some type of nutrient. So the top is Penta's Blue My Mind Evolvulus, and then a plant that I do not know that I got on clearance. It looks like some type of like diamond snow euphorbia or diamond frost euphorbia. It has a vine mixed in there. This is black-eyed Susan vine. Pay no attention to that one, but they're not even planted in there. I don't want to put them through an enormous amount of shock, so I'm just placing them in there. They're getting watered. You really can't tell, honestly, that they're not planted, so we're just kind of hopping them along for now in the dog days of summer. Coming up on my porch, here are 2 containers that again are some of my favorites that are just big and beautiful and glorious. They are hydrangeas, 2 different types of hydrangeas. This one is endless summer hydrangea, and this year I have gotten more blooms than ever before. I think it was this mild winter that we had. We had like one cold snap that lasted 5 days, 6 days. Zone 7 temperatures. It got really cold, like 8 degrees was the coolest temperature we had. But that was it. The rest of the winter was fairly mild. I mean, we got freezes, don't get me wrong. It just wasn't like super Arctic cold blasts, if you know what I mean. So the hydrangeas loved it. All across North Texas this spring, they have bloomed like crazy, and this one was no exception. And I am keeping the blooms on. So one little known fact, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, if you've not seen any of my garden tours before, I have a little trick with endless summer hydrangeas. And my trick is when everybody else is cutting their blooms off right now because they're green, I keep mine on, and I have noticed that they turn this like pinky color at this time, and they will continue to turn pink and darker as we head into winter. By December, all of these blooms are going to be absolutely this beautiful color magenta that is perfect for fall, perfect for winter, a dark deep magenta color, and I think they're stunning. And so I do not deadhead my endless summer hydrangeas at all. You could do it like right now would be the absolute latest time that you would want to deadhead an endless summer hydrangea, because they're forming their blooms for next year on some of these leaf nodes. And so you don't want to deadhead any later in the season than that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to see a beautiful display in the fall and winter time. Just wait for my like October, November container garden tour. It's going to be stunning. And right next to my endless summer, I have another hydrangea. It is a variegated lace cap hydrangea, and I have never seen it bloom. A friend of mine, I did a garden tour. It's called a stunning garden tour. A friend of mine, a neighbor of mine, Stacy, she also has the same exact plant, this variegated lace cap hydrangea, and she has had hers for now, I think she said 4 or 5 years, and this year was the first year that it ever bloomed for her. So these plants, for whatever reason, take, I think, longer to bloom. This is only my 4th season with this guy, and it doesn't matter because the foliage alone is absolutely stunning. I love these variegated leaves. They are just so pretty. So many different colors on one leaf. If you see here, there's like lighter greens, darker greens, cream colors. Some of them last year were all white. And so it's just a beautiful plant, and I absolutely love it. It's almost as big as the other plant next to it, and that plant is, what did we say, 14 years old now? Something like that. No, maybe it's 13 or 4. But anyway, this is only the 4th growing season, and this is at its mature size, and so it's pretty much almost mature now. I love this plant. And then moving on to these guys, this is one Gerber daisy in a pretty large pot, and this was a tiny Gerber daisy, and I had all kinds of other things growing in this pot that are now like spent and done, but this guy has now taken over. And it has really bright hot pink blooms when it's blooming. It's just not blooming currently. I had a bloom and it's spent now. Yeah, so, and I also kind of put some Tradescantia cuttings down in there. We'll see how those do, but that Gerber daisy is doing awesome. I almost don't even want to show you my 2 black containers over here because they just struggle so much. But hopefully by next month they'll be looking better. I put a ton of cuttings in here. So right here is a, what do we call this? What type of begonia was this? Shoot. Okay, I'll figure out the type of begonia this is and put it on the screen. This is a new growth. It still struggles. I think this thing is just gonna die. I don't. So that guy is there. I have a double up pink begonia here, super struggles. I put coleus cuttings, which are doing well. That's what this is. It's a coleus cutting. That's the double up pink begonia. I have creeping Jenny that's kind of trying to die off on me. I have another coleus cutting. This cutting is English ivy. I'm just pulling out all the stops to get anything to grow over here. There's very little light that gets here, and I make sure it's watered. Like, this is nice and moist. But yeah, we'll see. It's just struggling. And then this guy is a little bit the same. Here is the other planter, which is very similar to the other one, except that it has the pink tricolor sweet potato vine. This one gets a lot more sun, so it does a lot better. And yeah, I also put some Tradescantia zebrina cuttings in there. That's probably it. This is double up pink begonia. Again, not flowering, but still doing okay. The last 2, actually no, I have 5 more to show you. But this one is one of my favorite containers this year. It is on top. This is Tradescantia zebrina. This was a houseplant that I literally just took cuttings off of and placed into a pot up here. And it was maybe 8 cuttings, and man, they have grown and they love this spot. It gets morning sun for 1.5 to 2 hours, afternoon shade, and I mean, it's direct sun. It's about to get sun right now, actually, in the morning. And this is one of my favorite containers. This is a beautiful combination in my opinion. But down below I have variegated English ivy, and then I also have some dianthus planted in there. I think there's only one bloom way over there. There's a couple of them, but obviously it's pretty hot for them. And then this planter I'm super excited about. This is a bunch of shade perennials that I may keep here or I may transplant into the landscape. There could possibly be a new shade garden bed coming in, and I'll talk about that more if it ends up happening. But anyway, so I have leopard plant, giant leopard plant is what this one is, or tractor seat plant. Here is another one, but it is like a spotted, beautiful one. And let me tell you, something, probably grasshoppers, is loving this plant and just chewing the heck out of it. Could be snails too. I actually do need to put down snail bait in this one. So love that one. And then over here, it's struggling just a bit. This is a Brunnera. What type of Brunnera was this one? Sea Heart Forget-Me-Not Brunnera. Beautiful, beautiful. And it is struggling. Oh, I see what's happening. Oh no, y'all. I've got mealybugs. Oh dear. Okay. Well, looks like I'm going to be spraying this. That's why it's struggling. Okay. Nothing else has those. I guess the mealybugs just like the Brunnera. Yikes. Okay. Well, there you go. That's why you're supposed to inspect your plants every now and then. But I also have morning glory vine, blue pickety morning glory, and black-eyed Susan vine planted here. And this is also in my front garden tour, but it is coming up and over the front entrance, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So there's that one. This container right here is another English ivy container that I've created a little bamboo trellis for. It's doing great. And then just really quick, these are my curbside containers. They started out with a very, very teeny tiny Mystic Blue Spires salvia surrounded by 4 supertunias. And as you can see, the supertunias have all died and Mystic Spires Blue Salvia wins. It is gigantic now. It is amazing. I don't know if y'all can see all of these bumblebees that are flying all over the place. A lot of these flowers are spent and I could go and deadhead them, but bees, I mean, it's literally covered with bees from sun up to sundown, and if I get near them, they do kind of dive bomb me. There's lots of it still produces new blooms even when it doesn't get deadheaded though, and just absolutely beautiful. Super, super rock star for this heat. It's been 100 degrees plus for quite a bit, a couple of weeks now, and it's going strong. This one is the same, Mystic Spires Blue Salvia. For whatever reason, this plant is struggling just a little bit in this heat and kind of coming out of bloom as well. I have a few new ones. And then underneath that, I have a sparkling amethyst Superbina in there. Here's a couple of blooms for you. It's actually doing okay. It's coming out of a huge flush of blooms. I need to go and deadhead these, but it is doing okay as well. So those are my curbside containers, and that concludes the August 2024 container garden tour. Thank you so very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I understand that I am not a professional, just a home gardener that's being real with all of you. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please hit that subscribe button and comment below. It helps my channel so very much, and I appreciate every single one of you. I hope that all of you have a fantastic day. Goodbye, everybody.